A Chrysler supercar. I'm sorry, a Chrysler hypercar. Can you imagine? Usually we associate the brand with sedans or 4x4s made by Chrysler's subsidiaries Dodge and Jeep. But back in 2004, 10 years before the takeover by Stellantis, Chrysler made $1 million hypercar that was almost on par with the Bugatti Veyron, released 1 year later in 2005. Some of you may know this car from Test Drive Unlimited, Forza 2, or Midnight Club 3. And this hypercar from 2004 is the Chrysler ME412. ME412. What does it stand for? ME for mid-engine, 4 for the amount of turbochargers, and 12 for the car's V12 engine. Just like Pagani, this car also uses a Mercedes engine, a modified version of their M120 V12, but with 4 turbochargers, increasing the output to a staggering 850 horsepower, making it not just the most powerful American road-going car ever made until then, but in fact, the whole world's. Unfortunately, only 2 prototypes were made, one of which was a show car that needed to be towed around, and only the other having the functional engine. And some speculate that as a precondition for having provided the engine, Mercedes had demanded Chrysler wouldn't turn this into a production car, as it would have crippled the image on sales of both the SLR they had created with the help of McLaren and also Pagani Zondas, who relied on Mercedes for their engines. Now you may say, hold on a sec, why was Chrysler being bossed around by Mercedes? Because back in the late 90s, of the big 3 US automakers, it was Chrysler who had been doing remarkably well, at least compared to both General Motors and Ford, who were in troubled waters because their sedans were losing ground to imports. Unfortunately, Chrysler executives dropped their winning hand by deciding to merge with Daimler, also known as the Daimler-Benz Group, lying to their stockholders that it was a merger of equals, but in reality, effectively ceding control over to the Germans, which benefited Mercedes the most. But on the other hand, since the merger happened in 1998 and the ME412 debuted in 2004, dare I say that it only became a reality because of Mercedes' involvement. Because development only took a year, during the year 2003, so it's not like Chrysler had been working on this before the merger with Daimler. Maybe we should give Mercedes credit where credit is due and thank them for making a Chrysler hypercar possible, even if only as a concept. And I genuinely think that this car went on to inspire the Volkswagen Group in designing their Veyron. I mean, look at the wheels. Look at the front end. You can clearly see the similarities. Although Bugatti fans will let you know that the Veyron's looks are based on Bugatti's own concept cars released in the late 90s, like the EB112 going all the way back to 1993. Now, Motormax released this model in 3 colors. The official launch color, which is an anthracite gray, a matte black, and this gloss black. What I don't like is the fact that the other colors actually have more details. Here, for example, you can see the interior of the matte black version, and you can see that the 3 knobs above the CD player are painted in silver, just like the buttons of the circular dial below it. The center console's 2 guardrails, if you will, are also half chrome and half beige, while on my model they are completely chrome. There's also a bit of blue paneling underneath them. You also have something written on the dashboard, probably ME412. In this picture you can see it better. So all of those things were missing on the gloss black version that I purchased. The silver buttons didn't exist, and neither did the ME412 print. At least we get the Chrysler logo on the door sills, even on this gloss black version, which I'm happy about. In this picture, you can also see that there is some fine print on the buttons between the seats. Again, missing on the gloss black version. The matte black version also has silver brake discs. While they exist on this gloss black, they are unpainted and therefore hard to see. Also, the entire interior of the front trunk was unpainted on this gloss black version of mine, while the one from the matte black version looked like this. So I had to do a lot of painting to try and restore this model to what it is supposed to look like, and I will take you through it as I review this model. The worst offender, though, is the fact that the gloss black version doesn't even have seat belts, or racing harnesses, I should say. That's why you see those holes down there, where they are supposed to be clipped into, completely screwing over people who decide for this color instead of the others. Or maybe my model was an early batch or something, because there's a video of a gloss black version here on YouTube which isn't lacking the details that mine does. So that's one more reason why I am happy I bought this during a sale for €30 instead of the 40 or more that it usually goes for. So taking a look at the front of the 118 Motormax Chrysler ME412, you can see that the front has the classic Chrysler Crossfire hood with the rakes, and here at the front we get a separate chrome piece for the Chrysler badge, so it's not just a sticker or anything, so that's nice. Underneath it we have a front air intake, which is just a transparent piece of plastic with a grille texture on it, and it is flanked on either side by what appears to be holes for fog lamps, but I think that there are fog lamps inside. And taking a closer look at the headlights, these are of course very big, and so I'm glad that Motormax paid good attention to them. They do have pegs at the very left and bottom right, but they're transparent, and the headlights themselves are done very nicely. You can see that we have a double row of LEDs on top of the main xenon bulb, and the reflectors also have like that line-like texture on them, and the bulbs are also done very nicely, so this is really good. And behind the hood you have these 2 air vents with like silver fins in between them, so that kind of looks cool. And now let's check out the hood, or the front trunk I should say. And here you can see that I painted the details in, and I think it looks a lot better now. So what we have here are 2 radiators, and I painted the silver parts in the center of them that keep them bolted in place. And then we have these coil springs, and these also needed to be painted. And then there's also that bronze sort of bit there behind them. So all of this was completely black, and now I think it looks better, just like the 3 metal bars surrounding the radiators. We do get some nice texture in between the radiators, as you can see. If I can focus this a little. But yeah, there is no trunk space or anything like that. Also, this is like early carbon fiber here on the wheel wells, if I can focus this. Yeah. That's like 2008 Motormax level of carbon fiber, but yeah. All right. And here's a look at the car's side profile. And you can see it does really remind me of the Veyron a little bit. Now, the next thing that I improved are the indicators. These needed a little bit of orange, so I applied using Citadel acrylic paint. I think the color I used was Troll Slayer Orange. And now let's check the mirror quality. And you can see that the reflectors are surprisingly good for a Motormax. And other than that, there's of course not much you can see here on the black car, except for the silver blade that sort of runs alongside the door, leading up to an air vent. And of course we have like an antenna at the top here. But now let's take a closer look at the wheels. And you can see that there is a brake disc that is also like, it's got holes in it, like it's ventilated. And we have brake calipers as well, and the disc moves through the caliper. But unfortunately, all of this is not easy to see because on my model, neither of them are painted. But on other colors, they are. Or maybe on other batches of the same car, but yeah. So the chrome spokes look nice. And they're very shiny. So after all these years, the chrome is still as good as new. And that's about it. The model has no suspension at the back, but for some reason it has suspension on the front wheels, which is weird. And now taking a look at the back of the 1/18 scale Chrysler ME412 by Motormax, I think the back is the most unique part about this car because these taillights look so outlandish. I mean, there's no other car in my diecast collection that has these kinds of taillights. So they're pretty fascinating, and I think Motormax did a good job in replicating them because the pegs are hidden on the corners, and we get to admire this array of LEDs. I think there's like over 30 of them on either taillight, and they just look really cool. In between them, we have a rear license plate, which is body colored, but it does say Chrysler in engraved lettering, which is kind of hard to see, and above it we have the Chrysler logo. And then here at the bottom left it says ME412, and then we get two rear vents, which are hard to see because of the black body color. And of course we have the quad exhaust with the interiors that have been drilled in, so that looks pretty realistic. On the Maisto 124 version, these LEDs are painted in red, which looks really weird, in my opinion, as they only turn red when the car brakes or is in reverse. I feel like this flying spoiler, if you will, was influenced by the Porsche Carrera GT. Same with the mesh color on either side of the rear windshield / engine bay cover that reminds me of the engine cover of the Carrera GT. As we move on further up, two things bother me about this engine bay panel, which is that one, it is made out of plastic, and two, at least on my model, it doesn't even shut properly. Thankfully my model is black, so the panel gap is hard to see, but it would be horrendous on the gray version. And now let's take a look at the engine. The Chrysler ME412 went from 0 to 100 kph in just over 2.9 seconds, leaving behind competitors of the time like the Porsche Carrera GT, the Ferrari Enzo, the Pagani Zonda, and even the McLaren F1 in the dust, as it had an estimated top speed of 399 kph, that, however, was never proven on the track like Bugatti proved the Veyrons on Volkswagen's Era Lessien test track. I think Motormax did a good job on the engine detail, which is usually something that they're not known for. You can see that we have like the chrome engine and the carbon fiber roll cage or perhaps engine brace, and a chrome fuel filler, which is directly behind the engine. It sounds kind of dangerous if you ask me, given how hot an engine can get and how any spill could potentially ignite. But again, it was just a concept car that never went into production, so whoever was filling these up was a professional. Underneath it is the Chrysler logo, and to the left we have another filler cap. This was also unpainted, which I had to paint in silver. So overall, I think it looks decent now. The ME412 is also known for its glass roof, and you can see that the sunroof here looks pretty nice. You can see into the interior and everything, but you can also notice that this is an old Motormax, and so the glass quality is this typical Motormax bluish milky tint, which I really dislike, and you can see it well under low light conditions. And it also extends to the taillights and also the headlights, so it can look pretty horrendous, but in bright light conditions you don't really notice this, and so like under normal daylight it's pretty much invisible. And now let's check out the interior. The doors on this Motormax Chrysler ME412 unfortunately do not open very far. They're also pretty hard to open and close, so you gotta be careful. But as we take a look at the interior, we can first take a look at this fuel filler cap here, a second one I think. Maybe this is the main one and the other one was for the engine oil, I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, looking at the interior, here you will see the details I managed to add using another Citadel color called Stormhost Silver. So I have finally colored in the buttons and the knobs, although they still lack the printed labels. And the cassette player was too hard to do since it had to be painted black while the buttons had to be left in chrome, so I didn't bother. And I also left the guardrails in chrome instead of painting their lower halves in beige. And I couldn't replicate the MR412 branding either. But other than that, my interior now looks more like the interior of the later batches. You'll have also noticed that I managed to paint in the blue area behind the center console. And now focusing on other details the model already came with, we have air vents. There's also like a tray built into the dashboard, a beige footrest, and the door sill has the Chrysler logo, which isn't a sticker but a raised emblem. And taking a look at the seats, you can see that they have side bolstering and the aforementioned lack of a racing harness that would clip into the holes below. And I did paint the console between the seats in silver, but obviously couldn't add in the printed details on top. And taking a look at the door card, the two speakers were also only in beige, so I painted them in silver, just like the top of the grab handle. But I couldn't paint the actual door handle behind it in silver because of the angle needed for the paintbrush. But it still looks better now than before. And now taking a look at the driver's side, you can see that the steering wheel looks pretty good. It's got the Chrysler logo in the middle and silver for the buttons around it. And this car has a 7-speed dual-clutch auto transmission, so there's no gear stick or anything like that. And then behind the steering wheel we have the white instrument binnacle with readable gauges, but they don't have much detail on them. And aside from that, we do have floor pedals there in black, kind of hard to see. Another Chrysler logo here on this door sill. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And here's another look at the other door card, the seats. And overall, this is a pretty retro-futuristic looking car. And now taking a look at the bottom of the car, you can see that over here it says Motormax, Then we have the Chrysler ME412 concept written here, scale 118. Copyright Chrysler LLC 2008, made in China. Not much detail otherwise though, like absolutely no undercarriage detail, and if this thing would focus, no. There you go. It's just like one plastic panel. We do get a little bit of detail for the rear diffuser though. But yeah, that's it. So I hope you guys liked my review of this 118 Chrysler hypercar and Veyron rival, the ME412, made by Motormax, a model that is kinda rare these days, and I'm happy that I managed to find one with box in a good condition for a good price. And while I'm angry about it having less details than later batches, at least I was able to add some details back, including the subtle orange indicators that look more realistic than the yellow ones Motormax painted on the other models. If you want to check out some of my other reviews, you can watch them here, and take care, have a wonderful day. This is Imperial Diecast, signing out.